Representative Kamala Harris of the GOP referred to her as a DEI hire. Some warn that it's a portent of things to come. CNN. Vice President Kamala Harris quickly amassed enough delegates to guarantee the Democratic nomination and raised an unprecedented $81 million on the first full day of her presidential campaign. However, several Republicans focused on attacking Harris' race less than a day after she formally announced her candidacy for president. Representative Tim Burchett, a Republican from Tennessee, implied that President Joe Biden chose Harris as his running mate just because she is black in an interview with CNN's Manu Raju on Monday. He stated, "She is a DEI hire 100% of the time. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. At best, her record is appalling." Political observers say Burchett's remarks are reminiscent of Republican methods from the 2008 election that were used to fuel the conspiracy around Barack Obama's birthplace, and warn that this could be a portent of things to come on the already bumpy path leading up to Election Day. The argument between meritocracy and mediocrity has been going on forever. The reality is that white men were the only group in American history to be taken into consideration for the majority of the country's history, regardless of how mediocre they were. Democratic strategist Keith Boykin compared this to the Republican Southern strategy of the 1960s, in which politicians exploited racial grievances to mobilize white voters. When black people, women, people of color, and queer people began to openly enter the workforce and society, meritocracy became a topic of discussion. Abruptly, the presumption emerged that any individual who was not a heterosexual white guy had no right to be present. Following Burchett's comments, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson called for the election to be on policies, not personalities, at a press conference on Tuesday. Regarding Kamala Harris, this is not personal, and neither her gender nor her ethnicity played any role in this. Who can deliver for the American people and save us from this catastrophe is at issue here, when diversity becomes a slur. The criticism of Burchett's comments was rapid, with many pointing out that the implication that Harris might be inferior or uneligible due to her race played into well-worn racist stereotypes about women of color, particularly black women, in the workforce. Harris worked as a prosecutor for many years before being elected to the office of Attorney General in California and District Attorney in San Francisco. Before being chosen as vice president in 2020, she went on to win the U.S. Senate election in California in 2016 and became the first black and South Asian senator in the state. Boykin, the author of the book, Why Does Everything Have to Be About Race?, and co-founder of the National Black Justice Coalition, stated that Harris' experience doesn't seem to matter to others who would want to use identity politics to influence voters. They said that because Obama was a best-selling author, constitutional scholar, and U.S. senator, as well as a former state senator, he wasn't qualified. However, they chose Donald Trump, who had no prior government experience, and they make no mention of his credentials, according to Boykin. Just because she's a black woman, Kamala Harris, a former district attorney, attorney general, U.S. senator, and vice president, is a DEI hire. In their eyes, he claimed, "I mean, that's about as transparent as it gets." Democratic state lawmaker from South Carolina and CNN political analyst Pacari Sellers told CNN's Jim Acosta that Burchett's remarks have turned the value of diversity into a slur. "I don't think people are truly ready to witness what this campaign will be like and the depths to which many Republicans will sink to defile Kamala Harris's spirit and soul, not realizing that she is a fighter in her own right, a strategy that could backfire." Republicans may eventually find themselves on the receiving end of sustained attacks on Harris' gender or color, according to Glinda Carr, president of Higher Heights for America, a political group that promotes the involvement of black women in politics. Black women and men across have united behind Kamala Harris' campaign in the short span of 72 hours following Biden's endorsement of her to lead the Democratic ticket in his stead. Joining Zoom calls on Sunday and Monday, tens of thousands of Black Americans came together in support of the hashtag Win with Black Women and hashtag Win with Black Men campaign. Organizers claim that the calls raised more than $2.8 million for Harris overall. The very voters that Vice President Kamala Harris needs to win are being energized by Burchett's remarks, Carr stated. She is a woman with credentials from her educational background and life experiences who has run, triumphed, and governed at every level of government. Thus, keep up the rhetoric and watch how Black women, women of color, and women in general respond, and how we intend to mobilize in opposition to that incredibly damaging and untrue story.